In this video, we move from British Columbia to the Yukon Territory. Ride along and explore some of the great sights that we saw and some of the fascinating places. Friday morning, and we just finished breakfast, got all the dishes washed up and put away, so we're ready to hit the road. We spent the night at Summit Campground, which is in the Stone Mountain Provincial Park. It is in the Canadian Rockies, or the British Columbia Rockies to be more precise. And if you can see, the highway is just off to the right. Beautiful sight. The lake is gorgeous. Plenty of campsites. If you have a kayak or anything like that with you, take a turn around the lake would be a very nice way to spend the day. Well, we've been able to spot a black bear along the road. That's the second bit of wildlife we've seen other than a coyote earlier. We just left Summit Campground. We wanted to quick point out the road and how traffic is really thinned out. It's a beautiful drive through here. They have a native species called a stone sheep in the area. We just passed one on the road. It was actually on the other side of the road, and got to see one of those. So now we can check off a stone sheep. So it's been a beautiful drive through here. We're headed off to a hot springs to spend some time this afternoon, then staying actually in a lodge tonight, just because it looked like a really neat lodge. And hot shower doesn't sound like a bad thing at this point. So we'll check in when we get there and see how the day went at the hot springs. Here we have another example of the wildlife that you'll see along the road. There is a herd of bison that live along the Alaska Highway here in this area. And you see quite a few bison signs to be careful of them being on the road. In fact, if you look right in front of us, there's a sign about bison in the road. So do be careful if you're on the road, and watch out for the bison because they are here. We're getting ready to head down to the Laird Hot Springs. It's a famous stop, real popular stop along the highway. It's a set of hot springs along the Laird River. But I thought this was pretty cool. You start going to the hot springs through the Laird Hot Springs campground, and the campground is surrounded by a rather impressive electric fence. And that's designed to keep all the things that are big and scary out of the campground. As you saw, it was about 2 kilometers down the road where we saw the bison. So there's wild wood bison roaming this area. It also has moose, bear, wolves. So it's kind of interesting. I've never seen a campground surrounded by an electric fence before. So we're getting ready to walk down, and apparently what you have to do is leave the protected area and walk down about a half mile on a boardwalk. And there's a lot of warning signs and all that. And it's funny because a gal just stopped us and said, yep, there's a bear down there. They just saw one, and the conservation agent went down about 10 minutes ago. So there must be some activity. So we'll see. We'll see what we see as we go through. We just got out of the hot springs, and man, it was nice. It felt so good sitting in there. And if you get up to the end here, well, like all hot springs, I guess, the closer you get to the source, the hotter it gets, but it was really, really hot. But we enjoyed the heck out of this. It's a big pool. It's a nice facility. Talked to a lot of people. You know, everybody in here is traveling. So get the stories and the lowdown on where they've been and any hints about any particular areas. So I'd recommend it if you're not in a hurry going up the highway, or coming down the highway for that matter, and you want to take a quick break. This is really a nice spot. It costs us $5 Canadian a head to get in. I think if you're staying at the campsite, it's included in the fee. So highly recommended. After we left Laird Hot Springs, we went to Muncho Lake, where we spent the night at the Northern Rockies Lodge. It's a really nice place, has a great restaurant. We had a really nice dinner. They do offer remote float plane fly-in fishing trips if you like. There's a guest laundry where you can do your laundry and enjoy a wee sip of your favorite beverage. It's a great place just to relax, to reflect. The lake is beautiful. And if you're not into the lodges, they do have separate cabins available if you'd prefer to stay in one of those. So it makes a great place to break up the camping trip along the way. When you're doing these kind of major trips, very often it's easy to get caught up in the destination of where you're trying to get to and sort of focus on getting there. But don't forget, when you're doing these kind of trips, the point is to enjoy them, relax, and see what's out there. So we've crossed into the Yukon now, and we just took a quick hike. We're at Rancheria Falls, and it's a great place just to get the legs moving and the blood flowing, see a cool little waterfall, and just kind of relax a little bit, get off the road. So, Rancheria Falls. We just stopped and fueled up at Watson Lake, and happens to be right across the street from one of the most unique attractions along the Alaska Highway. So if you look over here, this is the Signpost Forest. Now this is funny because this was started in 1942 by a soldier from Danville, Illinois, and it's now grown into 90,000 plus signs that are just nailed to posts in this area, and they call it the Signpost Forest. So if you're looking for a really unique tourist attraction, I think this qualifies. We have found just a great spot to camp for the night. It's Lake LaBerge. It's actually a provincial campground here in the Yukon. We stopped in Whitehorse, got some Yukon Brewing beer. We've got our standby. We just wanted to try the beer. But we had just a great last couple days. The road from Fort Nelson to here in Whitehorse is just phenomenal. The views are stunning. The lakes are just gorgeous. We stayed in Muncho Lake, beautiful location. Teslin is beautiful. Marsh Lake, just south of Whitehorse here. It's just stunning scenery. Traffic picked up a bit, sort of north of Watson Lake, but it still wasn't bad. The road's in good shape, although a little bumpy now and then, but in pretty dang good shape. We're camping next to a couple that have been on the road for a year and a half. They're now finishing Alaska and Canada, and they're on their way back into the States to the East Coast. So it's been fun talking to them, and I just can't emphasize enough that when you're doing these travels, I really find that stopping in, like at the Liard Hot Springs or a bar or talking to your neighbors, the amount of people that are traveling as well and have stories, and they can tell you about the road conditions and what they've seen and what not to miss. You just can't believe it, the amount of information and wisdom you get just from fellow travelers. So now we're just heating up some water. We're going to have some dinner tonight. It's going to be another one of the peak refuels. It's beef pasta marinara. We'll let you know what we think of that. Since we're doing reviews of these meals as we eat them, I wanted to show you what the beef pasta marinara looked like prior to rehydrating. And I'm not going to say it necessarily looks like kibbles, but it looks like kibbles. So I can't wait to see what this one tastes like. Dinner is done. I must say, the beef marinara pasta was all right, but the chicken was better. The chicken Alfredo the other night. I'd give this one a C rating. It was edible. There wasn't anything off-putting about it, but it wasn't any great shakes either. But the fire's going. The lake is gorgeous, and it's time for our happy hour, or I should say our nightcap. And tonight we are doing the Glenlivet Caribbean Reserve, which is a scotch that is finished in Caribbean rum casks. And it may look like this bottle went pretty quickly, but we did meet some folks last night at the Great Northern Lodge. Actually, we met them at the Liard Hot Springs and then ran into them at the Great Northern Lodge. Again, one of the great parts about travel. And anyway, we shared some scotch with them last night before dinner, and tonight we're just gonna probably knock this one off. We stopped at the brewery today, the Yukon Brewery today. They also make single malt whiskeys, and we tried a flight of those. They had a whiskey that was finished in a maple cask that was really tasty. It's their latest innovation series, and it's really good. So we picked up a bottle of that, and we'll start into that one as we go. But tonight it is the Glenlivet rum, or the Caribbean Reserve. So we quite like it. If you get a chance, give it a try.